Do you desire something that's long, hard, and sturdy? Well then, why are you looking at me like that? I'm talking about spears. Spears! If so, Dragoon is the job for you. Sir, you realise Misshapen Chair made a Dragoon guide quite literally a few weeks ago, and even then, Dragoon is going to be reworked in 7.0. Are you a copycat? Why are you even bothering? Do you like wasting your time? Well, this was actually voted by my Patreons, and every job will require new guides in 7.0, rework or not, so yeah. Anyways, that spear isn't just for show. And if you're looking for a beginner-friendly and straightforward melee to get into, Dragoon is definitely a good option. And in this guide, I'll be making you, my student, and structure my lesson onto you as easy as possible to follow, and I won't jump to any assumptions regarding your skill level or experience. Dragoon's full penetrating potential is made through its GCD combo actions. GCD stands for Global Cooldown, which is all your weapon skills. For 1 to 2 targets, we have a True Thrust, into Vorpal Thrust, into Heaven's Thrust, into Fang and Claw, and finishing with Wheeling Thrust. Yes, I know, that spear isn't the only thing that is long, because so are your combos. This combo is your basic I do damage combo, and nothing else. Ideally, Fang and Claw should be executed from the target's flank, while Wheeling Thrust should be hit at the target's rear for extra deeps. Meanwhile, True Thrust into Disembowel, into Chaotic Spring, into Wheeling Thrust, and finishing with Fang and Claw is a bit more interesting. Disembowel grants Power Surge, which increases damage dealt by 10% for 30 seconds, while Chaotic Spring leaves a dot damage over time effect on target for 24 seconds. It goes without saying that both of these are very important to keep up at all times, but the Chaotic Spring dot will fall off even when doing the rotation correctly, so just disregard what I just said. Typically, your single target rotation will start with your Chaotic Spring combo to get your damage buff up and dot up, and then proceed to use your Heaven's Thrust combo for the big damage. Then it's as simple as rotating between the two combos over and over again. But here's a little tip. If there are 2 enemies and they have chunky HP pools, then we can do this thing known as multi-dotting. So instead of rotating between the 2 individual combos, we can just use Chaotic Spring combo on both enemies, again and again and again and again. The 5th hit in both of your combos, either Fang and Claw or Wheeling Thrust, depending on combo, will deal an additional 100 potency and grant Draconian Fire. Keep this in mind for now, we'll come back to it later. Also, if you catch yourself having to disengage from an enemy, make sure you use Piercing Talon. With a range of 20 yarms and a potency of 150, it doesn't break your combo, so don't worry if you're halfway through a combo and have to move away from the boss. You can Piercing Talon safely without breaking it. When taking on 3 or more enemies, we'll be using our AoE, Area of Effect combo instead. This consists of Doom Spike into Sonic Thrust and finishing with Corfian Torment. Oh yes, most jobs may only have 2-step AoE combos, but Dragoons like them long. You know how it is. All 3 of these attacks are straight line AoEs in front of you. Self-explanatory stuff, but here's a little visual and some footage for you because I'm such a good teacher. You'll notice that the AoE also catches a little bit behind you, so you can position yourself cleverly to maximize the enemies you're penetrating. Sonic Thrust will also grant you Power Surge, the same buff from Disembowel, so you don't need to worry about putting this up through the Chaotic Spring combo when AoE. Meanwhile, Corfian Torment will grant Draconian Fire, just like how your 5th hit in your single target combo does. Remember when I said to keep this in mind? This is why. Draconian Fire will replace True Thrust with Raiden Thrust and Doom Spike with Draconian Fury. They still combo like normal, so you know the deal. For 1 to 2 targets, we'll hit Raiden Thrust. For 3+ targets, we'll hit Draconian Fury. Each time we do a Raiden Thrust or Draconian Fury, we'll get a stack of the first Mind's Focus, holding a maximum of 2 stacks. At 2 stacks, we can use a Whirlwind Thrust, an oGCD straight line AoE with the potency of 420, and deals 50% less damage for any remaining targets hit. oGCD stands for Off the Global Cooldown, which includes all of your abilities. We'll be pretty much using Whirlwind Thrust upon hitting 2 stacks and making sure we don't have 2 stacks by the time we hit our next Raiden Thrust or Draconian Fury. Whereas that's a lot of damage loss, and a loss of damage makes our DPS smaller, and a smaller DPS means a smaller You know, as Dragoons, we often get made fun of for being floor tanks, and although this joke has honestly become boring and is not as accurate as it used to be, there is still some merit towards this joke, as he forgot to give us any form of defensive, unless you count Life Surge. Speaking of life surge, this guarantees the next GCD to be a critical hit and absorbs a portion of that damage dealt into HP. Great, except you're using this ability for damage first and foremost. Maybe if any of the overhealed HP would be converted into a shield, just a thought. Either way, enough of my bitching. This should always be used for Heaven's Thrust as a first priority, and your 5th hit Fang and Claw or Wheeling Thrust as a second priority. Because it's on a 40-second cooldown and holds up to 2 charges, it's always a good idea to hold on to charges until buffs. A good rule of thumb is never overcap the cooldown and always use a charge every even minute burst window and odd minute burst window. Even minute burst windows are during the opener and every 2 minutes after, while odd minute burst windows is every 1 minute after the opener. Another reason for the floor tank joke is because Dragoon used to have a damage buff called Blood for Blood. Do you know what this buff used to do? It increased damage dealt by 30%, but also increased the damage you suffered by 25%. This ability alone claimed many Dragoon lives, but those Dragoons sacrificed their lives so you could flourish. Because with the bodies of our fallen Dragoon brothers and sisters, SC finally decided enough was enough and gave us Lance Charge. This increases your damage done by 10% for 20 seconds on a 60-second cooldown. Yep, that's it. Use this on cooldown. Here's a fun fact. Did you know a litany is a form of prayer? Why does this matter? Well, funnily enough, Dragoon has an ability called Battle Litany. This increases critical hit rate by 10% for self and nearby party members in a range of 30 arms, which lasts 15 seconds and is on a 120-second cooldown. You'll be sure to be praying that your attacks actually crit during this period, because if they don't, well, that's kind of just painful. Anyways, use this off cooldown. It's your big party buff and important that it aligns with everyone else's buffs. For our final buff, we have Dragon Sight, which I don't have a joke for, so deal with it. Dragon Sight increases the damage dealt by 10% for 20 seconds, and if you so desire, increases the targeted party member's damage by 5%. And you should always be using this on another player. Don't be one of those Dragoons that just don't bother because they're too lazy to target another player. Look at it this way. You can make that player your little bitch and make them beg for it. Anyways, to make it easier, you can make a mouse over macro like this, or a dedicated party member macro like this, and just switch the number to the party member you want to tether throughout the encounter. It really doesn't hurt having more options. Here's a list of job priority on who you should tether I saw from the balance. Just keep in mind gear and skill level, as these things are major factors in who you tether and vary from player to player. Dragon Sight is on a 120-second cooldown, just like Battle Litany. Use this on a cooldown. Well, actually, you forgot to mention that Dragon Sight also removes positional requirements. Oh, you're right. I did. Oops. Well, aren't you going to mention it? It's too late. What said is said. I forgot about it, just like you'll forget every time you use the ability. Don't worry about it. Now, I don't mean to be elusive, but let's jump ahead to what makes Dragoon truly iconic. Their jumps. Starting with the gap closer, elusive jump. This jumps you backwards 15 yards and is on a 30-second cooldown. Because it jumps you backwards, it can be a bit awkward to use, but just get good in it. Not hard, mate. Hey, I just wanted to check in on you, but are you sitting up straight while watching this video? Make sure to correct your posture so you don't end up with a shattered spine in the future. You'll thank me later. Speaking of shattered spines, our next jump is Spine Shatter Dive, which jumps you to a target within 20 yards and delivers an attack with a potency of 250. Because Spine Shatter Dive is on a 60-second cooldown and holds 2 charges, it's best to always save both charges for the even minute burst window. But sometimes it's best to use a charge for the odd minute due to fight phasing. This is not your gap closer. That is elusive jump, and I will die on this hill, so fight me. I should also mention Dragonfire Dive. Just like Spine Shatter, this jumps to a target within 20 yards of range, dealing 300 potency to target and all nearby targets within a radius of 5 yards. Because this is on a 120-second cooldown, it can typically be used off cooldown and it will naturally align with buffs. All of these jumps can be double weaved with other oGCDs, but not with each other. The reason for this is because they all have animation locks. Keep that in mind, lest you want to be clipping into your GCD, making your DPS flaccid. Enough about that though, let's jump over to the Dragoon's gauge and all of its associated abilities. Have you ever heard the saying, I have a life? I never quite understood it. I mean, don't we all have lives? If you're watching this video, you quite literally are living a life. As for me and my fellow Dragoons, we have Life of the Dragon. But let's not jump ahead. Ouch, what was that for? Too many bad jokes and jump puns? Ugh, fine, I'll tone it down. A little. Anyways, high jump. Oh man, does this ability have some history? Back in my day, it used to animation lock... What? Why are you looking at me like that? You don't need to know the history? Ugh, fine. This ability deals 400 potency to target within a range of 20 arms, but will return you to your original position. Because this ability is on a 30-second CD, you'll be pretty much using this on cooldown. It also comes with the additional effect of granting dive ready. This effect allows you to execute Mirage Dive. This attack deals 200 potency to a target within a range of 20 yards and adds a 1 stack to the Dragon gauge, which we haven't talked about yet. Bear with me, we'll get there. To tie this all together, we have Gear Skogul, a straight line oGCD AoE which deals 260 potency to the first enemy hit and 30% less for any remaining enemies and is on a 30-second cooldown. If you have 2 stacks to the Dragon gauge and you use Gear Skogul, you'll enter Life of the Dragon, which allows the execution of Nastron, a straight line oGCD AoE dealing 360 potency for the first enemy hit and 30% less towards the remaining enemies on a 10-second cooldown. And Star Diver, an AoE oGCD with a range of 20 yards and a radius of 5 yards around the target and a potency of 620 to the first enemy hit and 30% less for all remaining targets on a 30-second cooldown. Star Diver functions like a jump but has a much longer animation lock to any other jump in the game. Because of this, you cannot double weave it with any other oGCD, so simply don't. Because Life of the Dragon lasts 30 seconds, we can do 3 Nastrons within this window, but only 1 Star Diver. There's a bit more optimization to the gauge and its abilities, but don't worry, it's nothing complicated, and just like any AAA developer that withholds content from you with future updates and DLC, I'm going to withhold that information from you until the opener and rotation portion of this video. I mean, you could skip ahead via the timestamps that I have so gracefully given you, but do you really want to do that? Besides, it's not that long now. Let's talk role actions. Hold up, the YouTube comments correcting my pronunciations. I need a second wind. Second wind heals you for 500 Ki potency on a 120-second cooldown. Use this to help your healers out during high intensity damage or when the heals can't reach you, or in my case, to Ki my mental health. Leg sweep. This stuns the target for 3 seconds on a 40-second cooldown. Woo, fancy. Except most enemies are stun resistant. Still, this can see value in dungeons and solo content. Maybe a trash mob is doing an AoE and you don't want to dodge it, so you can just stun it instead and keep uptime. Bloodbath. Bit odd, I'd rather not bath in blood, but okay. Bloodbath converts a portion of physical damage dealt into HP for 20 seconds on a 90-second cooldown. Use this like you would with second wind, I guess. All there is to it. Did you know feinting is a technique used in combat? It's basically faking an attack to turn your foe's attention to the feint, opening them up for the real attack. But this feint reduces target's physical damage dealt by 10% and magical damage dealt by 5% for 10 seconds on a 90-second cooldown. I guess it makes sense that you're weakening your opponent, but use this on raid wides. Your healers will thank you. You know, as melees, it's important to maintain uptime and keep your GCD rolling. And to do this, you always want to be within arm's reach of your opponent. But if a knockback is going to force disengage you, well, luckily we have a tool for that. On a 120-second cooldown and lasting 6 seconds, arm's length will make you immune to most knockback and drawing effects. So if you want to be sure to be within arm's reach of a boss, use arm's length. It also gives enemies a slow debuff for 15 seconds if they physically attack you, although this is mainly for the tanks. I guess it's good if the tank dies or something and all the aggro goes to you. I don't know, man. I would say something witty for this next ability, but truly I have ran out of wit, so I will turn to the north and reflect on my transgressions. Alright. True North nullifies positional requirements for 10 seconds on a 45-second cooldown and holds 2 charges. So if you can't hit those positionals due to an awkward phase in an encounter or just personal error, use True North. It'll save you damage and that's always a good thing. Well, I think you're just about ready to become a full-fledged Dragoon. Let's jump on over to the final chorus. So for level 50 and 80, I won't be going too much in detail. Level 50 is so jarringly boring. You'll begin with a Chaos Thrust combo to get your Power Surge and dot up, and then do 2 Full Thrust combos before having to reapply your Power Surge and dot and repeat. For level 60 to 80, it really doesn't differentiate much from level 90, except you just have less buttons, and I'm not going to go through the effort of making openers or rotations for something so unnecessary. But Azu, this is a guide, you should be making the effort. Shut the hell up. I'm about to give you the opener and rotation for level 90 Dragoon, and I've given you the tools and knowledge to make your own silly little 70 ooh or whatever opener. Now, onto the level 90 opener. We'll begin with a True Thrust, weave a Strength Potion, Disembowel, Lance Charge, and Dragon Sight, Chaotic Spring, Battle Litany, Wheeling Thrust, Gear Skogul and Life Surge, Fang and Claw, High Jump and Mirage Dive, Raiden Thrust, Dragon Dive, Vorpal Thrust, Spine Shatter Dive, Life Surge, Heaven's Thrust, Spine Shatter Dive, Fang and Claw, Wheeling Thrust, Raiden Thrust, Wormwind Thrust, disembowel, chaotic spring, and then just continue pressing your buttons in the correct order. Something I want to talk about while waiting for Lance Charge to come up is to make sure to use Gear Goggle before using our next high jump, which should be natural as Gear Goggle will come up first anyways. This is to forcefully delay our life of the dragon. If we were to use high jump and mirage dive and then Gear Goggle, we would be life of the dragon before our Lance Charge is even back up and miss out on damage. Of course, this can be optimal maybe at the very end of a fight where you know you're not going to get another even or odd minute burst window. For the next odd minute burst, it'll look roughly like this. Raiden Thrust, Lance Charge, Vorpal Thrust, Life Surge, Heaven's Thrust, Gear Goggle, Fang and Claw, Nastron, High Jump, Wheeling Thrust, Mirage Dive, Raiden Thrust, Star Diver, Disembowel, Wyrmwind Thrust, Chaotic Spring, Nastron, Wheeling Thrust, Fang and Claw, and then continue rotation like normal. There's room for error here, so if you need to delay a non-time sensitive oGCD like Mirage Dive or Star Diver, you can, as long as it's caught in the Lance Charge buff. If you'd like to make the next even minute burst window less busy, then it's a good idea to use this upcoming Life Surge on a Heaven's Thrust here. An unbuffed Life Surge Heaven Thrust is 480 potency, while a fully buffed Life Surge Fang and Claw or Wheeling Thrust within the even minute burst window is 484 potency. So you're trading a mere 4 potency for convenience and a potential extra usage on Life Surge over the course of an encounter. Speaking of the even minute burst window, welcome to hell as you frantically smash your keyboard to get every cooldown off during the buff window. You'll figure it out, but I guess I can give you a rough idea of how I do this. Raiden Thrust, Lance Charge, Dragon Sight, Disembowel, Battle Litany, Wyrmwind Thrust, Chaotic Spring, Gear Goggle, Nastron, Wheeling Thrust, High Jump, Fang and Claw, Mirage Dive, Dragonfire Dive, Raiden Thrust, Star Diver, Vorpal Thrust, Spine Shatter Dive, Life Surge, Heaven's Thrust, Nastron, Spine Shatter Dive, Fang and Claw, Wheeling Thrust. And then continue your rotation like normal. But hey, maybe you come up with better. After all, the goal of the teacher is for the student to surpass the teacher. Hey wait, I haven't told you about the stats to aim for. When melding gear, our stat priority should look like this. Critical hit, Determination, Direct hit, Skill speed, and then no further explanation needed. I don't make the rules. What about AoE? What about AoE? Literally just press your AoE buttons when there are 3 or more targets, Lamal. Now go, my student, pierce the heavens with the might of your spear and let your name be known, or at least my name. With nothing left to teach you, I will now take my leave. Make sure to come back in a year though, because this guide will be rendered useless. But yeah. If you find me a helpful teacher, then consider checking out my Patreon and buying my exclusive course on how to get good at FF14. Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't sell such a thing. But contributing just £1 a month, you can get the rights to vote on upcoming video ideas, watch my video outtakes, and get an exclusive Discord role and channel. Anyways, sellout time is over. So goodbye, subscribe, goodbye now.